The trap. Jace's breath formed small clouds in the cold morning air of Grixon 4. He trudged through the dense underbrush, his eyes scanning the ground for signs of the small game he hoped to find in his traps. The forest was alive with the sounds of distant creatures, none of which were familiar to his earth-trained ears. He paused near a particularly large fern, wiping sweat from his brow. Another day, another empty stomach, he muttered to himself, checking yet another empty trap. Just as he was about to move on to the next one, a sharp snap echoed through the trees. It was followed by a strange whirring noise, unlike anything he'd heard before. With renewed energy, Jace hurried towards the sound. Pushing aside a low-hanging branch, he finally saw it. The trap hadn't caught a creature. Instead, it clutched a bizarre, metallic object that buzzed and twitched like a grounded beetle. What in the world? Jace knelt beside the trap, his curiosity piqued. He reached out cautiously, touching the cold metal with the tip of his finger. The object was intricate, clearly not a part of the natural world of Grixon 4, and most definitely not something his simple snare was meant to catch. As he inspected his unexpected catch, the brush rustled behind him. Jace spun around, his hand instinctively going to the knife at his belt. A man stepped into the clearing, tall and broad, with a cautious look in his eyes. He was dressed similarly to Jace, in rugged frontier gear. "Didn't expect to find anyone else out here," the man said, his voice deep and resonant. "Name's Hal. I heard that snap from over the ridge. Thought I'd check it out." Jace relaxed slightly, but kept his hand near his knife. "I'm Jace. Looks like it wasn't dinner after all," he replied, gesturing to the metallic object. Hal knelt beside Jace, his interest evident. "That's not from any creature I've seen. Looks more like... Are you thinking what I'm thinking? That we've just found something not from this planet?" Jace couldn't hide his excitement. Aliens weren't just science fiction anymore, not since humanity had started colonizing other worlds. But actual contact was rare, especially this far out. Could be a drone. Scouting, maybe? But why here? Why Grixon 4? Hal pondered, stroking his chin. Jace used his knife to gently pry the trap open, freeing the object. It was light in his hands, its surface smooth except for the parts damaged by the trap. "We should take this back to camp. See if we can figure out what it is, or what it was doing here." "Agreed," Hal said, standing up. "But we should be careful. If this is a scout, whoever sent it might be watching." Together, they made their way back to Jace's camp, the strange object carried between them. As they walked, the sun began to rise, casting long shadows through the towering trees. Neither man spoke much, each lost in his own thoughts about the implications of their find. Back at camp, they set the object on a makeshift table. Jace pulled out a few tools, and together they began to examine their discovery more closely. It was definitely technological, possibly even advanced beyond human capabilities. As they worked, the metallic object suddenly lit up, projecting a hologram of a strange, starry galaxy. Jace and Hal exchanged a look of awe. "Guess it's not just a piece of space junk," Hal murmured. Jace nodded, unable to take his eyes off the hologram. "No, it's definitely not. And I think our morning just got a lot more interesting." Their accidental discovery would soon lead them into the depths of interstellar diplomacy and beyond, forging an unexpected bridge between humanity and the stars. Chapter 2. First Contact. Jace and Hal spent the early morning hours huddled around the strange device, trying to decipher its function and origin. The hologram of the galaxy continued to swirl above it, displaying stars and planets that neither of them could recognize. "Look there," Hal pointed at a cluster of blinking lights on the hologram. "Those flashes must mean something." Maybe it's trying to send a signal. Jace frowned, peering closer. Or it's a map. Could be showing us where it came from. As they debated, a crackle of static cut through the air, and a new projection appeared above the device. This time it was an image of an alien being, slender, with translucent skin that shimmered with a subtle luminescence. The alien's large, opalescent eyes regarded them with what could only be curiosity. Hal jumped back, his hand on his knife again. It's transmitting an image. Could be live. "Hello," Jace said tentatively, not sure if the creature could hear or understand him. "I'm Jace, and this is Hal." The figure blinked slowly, then a series of harmonic tones filled the air, melodious and oddly soothing. After a moment, the tones shifted, and a voice emerged, surprisingly clear and tinged with an accent they couldn't place. "I am Ilara of the Zoltrax. You are holding my scout probe. I mean no harm." Jace exchanged a look with Hal, both relieved and fascinated. "We didn't know what it was," Jace replied. "We found it caught in a trap. We're sorry for the damage." Ilara's image nodded, her expression serene. "It is unharmed. Your planet is not charted for advanced contact. This is unexpected." "Why send a scout here, then?" Hal asked, skepticism in his tone. Ilara paused, her eyes dimming slightly. "My people explore and document. We seek uninhabited worlds. Yours is more inhabited than we realized." Jace leaned in, driven by an innate desire to learn more. "Can we help you somehow? Perhaps share information about our world?" Ilara's image flickered, then stabilized. "A cultural exchange, then. That is agreeable. I can share knowledge of the cosmos, in exchange for data about your planet." "That's fair," Hal said after a moment. "But how do we proceed? This is uncharted territory for us humans. Let us establish trust. I will send down a communication module. It will allow us to interact more directly." Ilara explained. "Sounds like a plan," Jace agreed, his mind racing with the possibilities. Ilara's figure dissipated as the device powered down. The two men sat back, overwhelmed by the morning's events. "We need to report this," Hal stated, but he looked uncertain. "But who would believe us?" "We'll make them believe," Jace replied with a determined grin. "We have evidence." They decided to secure the device and prepare a sheltered spot in the camp where they could set up the communication module that Ilara mentioned. As they worked, another figure approached the camp, a fellow researcher named Marco, who specialized in exobiology. Jace waved him over, excited to share their discovery. "What's all this about?" Marco asked, eyebrows raised as he looked at the device. "We've made first contact, Marco. This," Jace gestured to the device, "is our link to an alien civilization." Marco's eyes widened in astonishment. "First contact? You're not joking. This is real." "Real as it gets," Hal chimed in. "They want to exchange knowledge." Marco nodded, clearly intrigued. "Count me in. This could change everything. What do you need from me?" "We need to establish a secure and stable setup for communication," Jace explained. "Think you can help with that?" "Absolutely," Marco replied, his scientific curiosity piqued. Together, the trio set about preparing for the arrival of the communication module. They discussed potential protocols, safety measures, and how to document everything scientifically. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the camp, they had transformed their initial shock into a focused, shared mission. The camp buzzed with a new energy, as they anticipated the bridge they were about to build between humanity and the stars. Chapter 3. The Exchange. The following morning, The camp was abuzz with activity. Jace, Hal, and Marco had barely slept, their minds occupied with the possibilities of the impending exchange. They had cleared an area in the center of the camp for the communication module Ilara had promised, marking it with reflective panels to guide the alien technology to its destination. As they prepared, a soft humming filled the air, and a small, sleek device descended from the sky, landing gently in the designated area. It was about the size of a suitcase, with a smooth, metallic surface and no visible seams or buttons. "That must be it," Marco said, stepping forward with a scanner to check for any hazardous emissions. "It's clean," he announced after a moment. Jace approached the device, his curiosity overcoming his caution. "Ilara, are you there?" he called out tentatively. The device flickered to life, and Ilara's hologram appeared once more, now much clearer. "I am here, Jace. Is the module functioning correctly on your end?" "It looks like it," Jace replied. "What's the next step?" "We begin by sharing. I will provide you with information about our technology and culture. In return, I ask for your experiences and knowledge of Earth and its civilizations," Ilara explained. Hal, who had been quietly observing, now spoke up. "We're ready to start. But how do we share our information? Do you need data files, recordings, or something else?" "Verbal explanations are sufficient for now," Ilara responded. "I can record and analyze the information you provide." "Shall we begin?" Marco suggested, starting with the basics. "Let's talk about our planet's environment and biodiversity. That should give you a good foundation." For the next several hours, the men took turns speaking into the module, describing Earth's climates, ecosystems, and the various forms of life that inhabited them. They also discussed human society, covering topics from governance and technology to art and cuisine. Ilara listened intently, her hologram nodding occasionally. "Your world is rich with life and complexity. It is more similar to ours than I had anticipated." Jace was eager to learn about Ilara's planet in return. "Can you tell us about Zoltrax? What's it like there?" Ilara's eyes lit up, and the module emitted a series of soft beeps as it began projecting images of her world. The pictures showed vast oceans, towering forests, and cities that blended seamlessly with nature. "Zoltrax is a planet of harmony and learning. Our society values knowledge above all else. We live to explore and understand the universe." As they exchanged information, the men were fascinated by the advanced technology and the philosophical depth of Ilara's people. It was a stark contrast to the often tumultuous history of Earth. Hal, who had been listening intently, finally spoke. "This exchange is incredible. It's like opening a door to a whole new universe." Ilara's hologram smiled. "It is the same for us, Hal. By sharing our knowledge, we enrich both our peoples." The dialogue continued into the evening, with each party growing more comfortable and enthusiastic about the exchange. They agreed to meet regularly, setting a schedule for communication and topics of discussion. As the session ended, Marco turned to Jace and Hal. "Do you realize what we're starting here? This isn't just a scientific exchange. It's a diplomatic bridge." Jace nodded in agreement. "It's more than that, even. It's a new chapter for humanity, a chance to be part of a larger community of intelligent life." The men retired to their quarters that night, minds racing with thoughts of the future. The possibilities were endless, and for the first time in a long while, they felt a profound sense of purpose and excitement about what lay ahead. The universe had just gotten a lot bigger, and they were at the forefront of exploring it. Chapter 4. Learning Curves. The early light of dawn crept over the camp as Jace, Hal, and Marco gathered around the communication module, ready for another day of unprecedented interstellar exchange. The air was crisp, and a sense of anticipation hung palpably among them. Today, let's focus on technology and engineering. I think understanding more about each other's tools and methods will be crucial, Marco suggested as he adjusted the device to ensure it was recording. Ilara's hologram flickered to life, greeting them with a warm smile. "Good morning, friends. I am eager to learn from you today." Jace started the session, detailing human advancements in renewable energy sources. "We've developed solar panels that can harness sunlight with more efficiency than ever before. They're crucial for sustaining our off-world colonies." Ilara listened intently, her eyes reflecting a keen interest. "Fascinating. Zaltraxians use crystalline matrices to capture starlight. They function on a similar principle, but are adapted to our multiple suns." Hal, always intrigued by mechanics, chimed in. "What about vehicles? Our cars and planes have evolved a lot, but we're still struggling with some limitations of space travel. We use magnetic levitation for most transportation needs, reducing friction and enhancing speed," Ilara explained. The module projected images of sleek, streamlined vehicles gliding above intricate track systems. "Our space travel relies on quantum entanglement for navigation over long distances." Marco scribbled notes furiously as they spoke. "This could revolutionize our approach to physics and engineering back on Earth." The men then demonstrated a simple water filtration device they had improvised from local materials, showing Ilara a side of human ingenuity born of necessity. Ilara was impressed. "Resourcefulness is highly valued among my people as well. Here is a device we use for extracting atmospheric moisture." She described a compact unit that could provide water even in the driest conditions. As the morning progressed, the exchange deepened. Hal steered the conversation towards architecture, sharing blueprints and photos of human structures from skyscrapers to sustainable homes. Ilara reciprocated with images of Zaltraxian architecture, which harmoniously blended functionality with natural forms. "Our buildings are living structures, designed to grow and adapt to their inhabitants' needs." Jace, fascinated, saw a learning opportunity. "Could you show us more about how these structures are built? Maybe we can learn something that applies to our own habitat construction here." "Of course," Ilara responded. The module displayed a series of construction techniques involving bioengineered plants and minerals that self-assembled into predetermined architectural designs. As the session concluded, the trio discussed how to apply what they had learned. "There's so much potential here," Marco said, looking at Jace and Hal. "Imagine integrating some of these technologies into our colonies." Hal nodded, a grin spreading across his face. "I'm just thinking about those magnetic levitation vehicles. No more bumpy rides in the rovers." The day ended with plans to construct a small prototype of a Zaltraxian-inspired water extractor using their combined knowledge. They set up a workspace beside the communication module, each man contributing his expertise to the project. "Today was incredible," Jace remarked as they assembled the device. "It feels like we're not just exchanging information, but really starting to integrate our knowledge." "Yeah," Hal agreed, tightening a joint on the prototype. "It's like building a new world together, piece by piece." Marco stepped back, admiring their handiwork. "Let's see if it works. If it does, we'll have made our first real collaboration product." They activated the device, holding their breath as it hummed to life. Slowly, droplets of water began to condense and trickle into a waiting container. "Success!" Marco exclaimed, clapping the others on the back. "Here's to many more." As night fell, they sat around their campfire, discussing the future with a sense of camaraderie and purpose. The stars above seemed a little less distant, a little more like part of their extended home. Chapter 5. A Glimpse Beyond. The evening air buzzed with energy as the three men gathered around the communication module. Jace, Hal, and Marco had spent the day tweaking their makeshift water extractor and discussing ways to improve its efficiency. When Ilara's hologram appeared, they were ready to dive into new territory. "Greetings," Ilara said, her image flickering into clarity. "I have something special to show you today, if you are willing." "Special how?" Hal asked, crossing his arms. He always appreciated the straightforward approach. "An opportunity to experience Zaltraxian technology firsthand," she replied, her tone as serene as ever. "I have prepared a transport pod that can bring you aboard my vessel. I believe seeing our methods and designs in person will deepen our exchange." Jace's eyebrows rose. "You're offering to take us to your ship?" "Indeed. It is safe and entirely within my authority to extend this invitation. If you wish, I can send the pod immediately." Marco looked at Jace and Hal, his face lit with excitement. "This is the chance of a lifetime. We'd be the first humans to set foot on an alien ship. What do you think?" Jace considered the implications, the risks and rewards swirling in his mind. "If we're all in agreement, then let's do it." Hal nodded. "I'm game. If something goes wrong, we'll deal with it." "Then it's settled," Jace said. He turned back to the hologram. "Send the pod." Ilara inclined her head. "It will arrive shortly. Please stand within a 5-meter radius of the module." The three men stood together, their hearts pounding as a gentle hum filled the air. Moments later, a sleek, egg-shaped pod appeared. It shimmered faintly, its surface smooth and seamless. A circular doorway opened with a faint hiss, revealing a softly glowing interior. Marco leaned closer, peering inside. "Wow! It's beautiful. Almost like it's alive." "Shall we?" Jace asked, motioning toward the entrance. The three stepped inside, feeling a gentle vibration beneath their boots as the pod's walls closed behind them. The interior was minimal yet elegant, with seats that adjusted automatically to their body shapes. A soft blue light illuminated the space, and they could feel a slight shift in motion. "Okay," Hal said, trying to mask his nervousness. "This is happening. We're really going up there." "Ilara," Jace said aloud, assuming she could hear them. "How long until we reach your ship?" "Approximately 1 minute," her voice replied, calm and clear. "The pod is self-guiding and will dock in the central hangar." The short trip passed in a blur. Before they knew it, the pod came to a gentle stop, and the door slid open. The men stepped out into a spacious hangar bathed in soft white light. Sleek, silver-hued walls curved gently around them, creating a space that felt both futuristic and welcoming. Ilara's figure appeared nearby, this time not as a hologram but as a physical presence. She stood tall and poised, her translucent skin catching the light. Her calm demeanor was as reassuring as it was alien. "Welcome," she said, her melodic voice echoing slightly in the vast space. "This is the heart of my research vessel. I am honored to show you our world from this perspective." Hal looked around, his mouth slightly agape. "This is incredible." "Yeah," Jace agreed, taking in the sight of the curved architecture and the hum of distant machinery. "It's like stepping into the future." Marco was already examining a nearby console, his scientific curiosity in overdrive. "What powers this ship? Is it some kind of fusion reactor?" "Close," Ilara replied. "We use a crystalline core that draws energy directly from subspace currents. It allows for nearly unlimited power without the need for conventional fuel." As Ilara guided them through the vessel, the men marveled at the various chambers and equipment. There were laboratories filled with strange instruments, observation decks with breathtaking views of the galaxy, and rooms that seemed to shift and change based on the needs of their occupants. These walls, Hal said, running his hand over a section that shimmered at his touch. What are they made of? Self-organizing polymers, Ilara explained. They respond to bioelectric fields and can adapt their shape and function. It allows us to use every inch of space efficiently. As they continued their tour, they reached an expansive viewing room. The transparent wall revealed a stunning vista of stars, nebulae, and a nearby gas giant glowing softly against the dark backdrop of space. Jace and Hal stood side by side, both staring in silence for a moment. Finally, Hal spoke. You know, when I was a kid, I used to stare at the stars and wonder what was out there. Never thought I'd actually be here, looking at it like this. Same here, Jace admitted. It's humbling. Ilara joined them, her expression serene. Your journey is only just beginning. There is much more to see and learn, if you are willing. Marco, who had been quietly taking it all in, turned to the others. We need to bring what we've learned back to Earth. Share this knowledge, show people what's possible. Jace nodded. We will. But for now, let's focus on understanding. We have the chance to learn directly from another civilization, something no one has done before. Let's make the most of it. The three men continued their exploration of the ship, each step revealing more wonders. The possibilities felt endless, and for the first time, they truly felt like they were no longer alone in the universe. Chapter 6. Touch of the Cosmos. Jace, Hal, and Marco spent the next several days exploring the Zaltraxian vessel. It was a place of quiet elegance, with softly glowing halls and rooms that adjusted their shapes and configurations to suit the needs of their visitors. The three men were mesmerized by the blending of technology and organic design, something they'd never encountered before. One morning, as they gathered in the observation deck, Ilara joined them, her luminous presence casting a faint light over the curved walls. You seem more comfortable here, she observed, her voice calm and melodic. Hal leaned against a railing, gazing out at the swirl of distant nebulae. It's hard not to feel at ease when you're surrounded by something so incredible. I can't believe you just live up here, floating in all this. Our lives are lived among the stars, Ilara said simply. But what you call home, planets, the ground beneath your feet, has its own beauty. Each perspective has value. Jace smiled, nodding at the wisdom in her words. Earth does have its charm. Rolling mountains, endless oceans. It's hard not to miss it sometimes. But I think we're getting used to the view from up here. Marco glanced around the room, his scientific curiosity showing. I have a question. These walls, they're responsive, right? Like, they change based on who's here. Ilara tilted her head slightly, her translucent features catching the light. Yes, they respond to bioelectric fields and emotional states. They adapt to provide the optimal environment for learning, relaxation, and communication. Hal grinned. Could use something like that back on Earth. Imagine never needing to redecorate. They shared a brief laugh, the camaraderie between the humans and Ilara growing stronger with each passing day. The atmosphere on the ship, once strange and alien, now felt welcoming and familiar. As they moved through the ship, Ilara guided them to a new chamber filled with objects that looked like a cross between sculptures and interactive terminals. This is our cultural archive, she explained. Here, I can show you the art and traditions of the Zoltrax people. Jace walked up to a nearby pedestal, where a series of holograms sprang to life. Abstract shapes danced and shifted, colors morphing into patterns that seemed to convey emotion without words. He reached out hesitantly, his hand passing through the light. This is beautiful. Is it music? Or it's a form of storytelling, Ilara said. Each pattern represents an event or a memory. In our culture, visual and auditory experiences are intertwined. Hal, examining another hologram, asked, "Can we try making one of these? I mean, it's probably a long shot, but it'd be interesting to see if we can tell a story the way you do." Ilara smiled faintly, nodding. It would be an excellent exercise in cultural exchange. "Let me show you how to begin." She walked them through the process, her calm demeanor making the complex technology seem almost intuitive. Before long, the three humans were creating their own patterns, clumsy at first, but gradually more coherent. They laughed and joked as they tried to match Ilara's intricate designs, enjoying the creative process and the bond it was forging between them. At one point, Jace caught Ilara's gaze. There was something warm and genuine in her expression, a connection that went beyond mere curiosity. It wasn't just about the exchange of knowledge anymore. It was about understanding each other as individuals. Later that evening, as the group gathered in a quiet lounge area, Hal spoke up. "You know, it's funny. Back on Earth, I never imagined I'd be sitting here, sharing stories with an alien. But now it feels normal. Like this is where we're supposed to be." Marco nodded in agreement. "It's hard to explain, but this whole experience, it's not just about technology or science. It's about people. Well, people and whoever you are," he said, glancing at Ilara with a smile. Ilara's luminous skin seemed to glow a little brighter. "We are all people, in our own ways. Labels matter less than the understanding we build." Jace, who had been quiet for a moment, finally spoke. "It's more than understanding. It's trust. I feel like we've reached a point where it's not just about learning from each other. We've become friends." Ilara's gaze lingered on Jace, and her voice softened. "Friendship is a rare and precious gift. I cherish the connection we have built." Hal cleared his throat, a faint grin on his face. "Well, I don't know about you two, but I'm ready to see what's next. Ilara, got any other surprises up your sleeve?" Ilara's smile was subtle but genuine. "There is always more to explore. The galaxy is vast, and we have only just begun." They spent the rest of the evening exchanging stories and laughing together, the lines between human and Zaltraxian fading more with each passing moment. By the time they parted ways for the night, the bond between them had grown even stronger, setting the stage for deeper connections and shared adventures yet to come. Chapter 7. Shadows of Suspicion. A few days after their last cultural exchange session, Jace, Hal, Marco, and Ilara were gathered in the observation lounge, reviewing the artistic patterns they had created. The room was filled with laughter and easy camaraderie. However, their peaceful collaboration was soon interrupted. Ilara's voice turned serious. "I need to share something with you all. There are members of my people who disagree with our interaction. They believe our cultures should remain separate." Hal frowned. "Why would they think that? I thought this exchange was good for both sides." Ilara nodded slowly. "It is. But not everyone sees it that way. Some fear that your influence might change us too much. They prefer isolation to growth." Marco sat forward in his seat. "So what happens now? Are they going to try to stop this exchange?" "They have sent messages urging me to end our contact. So far, it is just words. But I must admit, it worries me." Jace glanced at Hal and Marco. "Do you think they're just going to talk? Or could it escalate into something more serious?" "I hope not," Ilara said softly. "My people value reason and discussion over confrontation. But there is always a possibility that those who oppose us might take further steps." Hal leaned back, crossing his arms. "So what can we do about it?" Sit around and wait for them to make a move. Marco, ever the pragmatist, suggested, maybe we can show them how beneficial this exchange is. Proof might change their minds. Ilara's holographic display brightened slightly, as if in agreement. That is a sound strategy. If we can present our shared work, your contributions to our technology, and our cultural knowledge in return, it might convince them that this relationship is valuable. Jace tapped his chin, thinking, what about the water extractor we built? It's a clear example of how we combined human ingenuity with Zaltraxian design. If they see that, it might sway their opinion. True, Marco added. And we could show them the artistic patterns we've been making. It's a symbol of how we're learning from each other, not just taking. Hal's eyes narrowed. But what if they don't care about logic or proof? What if they've already decided we're the problem? Ilara regarded him steadily. That is a risk. However, by presenting our work openly and with honesty, we strengthen our position. Those who oppose us rely on fear and misunderstanding. If we can replace that fear with knowledge, we might change their minds. Marco stood up, pacing. Then we need to prepare. Document everything. Create a presentation that shows how this collaboration is already benefiting both sides. Jace nodded. We can work together on it. Ilara, if you can share more about your people's concerns, we can address them directly. And we'll focus on the practical benefits, not just the ideas. Ilara agreed. I will compile the information I have. If we move quickly, we can present our findings before any opposition gains more support. They spent the next several days working around the clock. Jace, Hal, and Marco gathered data, recorded their experiments, and wrote detailed explanations of the projects they had completed. Ilara provided insights into Zaltraxian philosophy and how the exchange was helping her people grow. During one of their work sessions, Hal paused and looked at Jace. You know, this isn't just about proving them wrong. It's about showing that what we're doing here matters, that it's worth fighting for. Exactly, Jace replied. If we can make them see that, then we'll have something stronger than their doubts. When the presentation was ready, Ilara reached out to the Zaltraxian Council that had expressed concerns. A meeting was scheduled aboard her vessel, allowing the human team to share their findings directly. The day of the meeting, tension hung in the air. Jace, Hal, and Marco stood side by side in the main assembly hall of the ship, their presentation materials displayed on large holographic screens. Ilara stood with them, her calm demeanor a source of reassurance. One by one, Zaltraxian representatives appeared via hologram. Some looked curious, others wary. Ilara began by introducing her human guests and summarizing their work together. Then Jace stepped forward, his voice steady. We're not here to impose or change your way of life. We're here to learn, just like you. We've found common ground in our projects, and we believe that what we've built together shows the potential of collaboration. Marco followed, showing data on the water extractor. This device combines human resourcefulness with Zaltraxian materials and design principles. It's efficient, effective, and could be used on multiple planets, including yours. Hal took his turn, pointing to the artistic patterns they'd created. This isn't just technology. It's culture. By working together, we've made something that represents both our people. It's not one side taking over the other. It's a shared creation. As the humans presented their case, the Zaltraxian Council members listened closely. Some seemed thoughtful, others reserved. When the presentation ended, there was a long pause. Finally, one of the Zaltraxian representatives spoke. Your arguments are compelling. You have shown that this exchange can produce tangible benefits. While not all of us agree, I propose that we allow this collaboration to continue under careful observation." Ilara inclined her head. "Thank you. Your willingness to consider our work will benefit us all." As the council adjourned, Jace, Hal, Marco, and Ilara breathed a collective sigh of relief. Their efforts had paid off, and the path forward seemed a bit clearer. Hal clapped Jace on the back. "We did it, man. Looks like they're starting to see things our way." Jace smiled. "Yeah, but it's not over. We've got to keep proving it, every step of the way." Ilara, standing beside them, nodded. "That is how trust is built. One step at a time." Chapter 8. Unity. The mood aboard the Zaltraxian vessel was lighter than it had been in weeks. The Council's cautious endorsement of the cultural exchange had lifted a weight from everyone's shoulders. Jace, Hal, and Marco felt a renewed sense of purpose, eager to continue their work and deepen the connections they'd started. It was Hal who suggested the next project. "We've got their trust for now, but we can't stop here. Let's build something bigger, something that really shows what this partnership can do." Jace nodded. "Agreed. We need a project that's not just useful, but symbolic. Something that represents how our two cultures are blending." Marco leaned over a console, running through some schematics. "What about a shared habitat? A place where humans and Zaltraxians can work side by side. Not just a temporary lab, but a real, permanent structure." "I like that," Jace said, a smile breaking across his face. "It's something we can show to both our people. A space where our differences actually come together." Hal cracked his knuckles. "All right then, let's get to it." The three men, alongside Ilara and her team of engineers, began drafting the plans. Ilara provided input on Zaltraxian materials that could adapt to environmental conditions, while Jace and Hal focused on the structural design and human-friendly living spaces. Marco suggested incorporating a communal garden, a combination of earth plants and Zaltraxian flora, to symbolize their shared growth. As they worked, the camaraderie between the humans and Zaltraxians grew stronger. The crew members who had been skeptical at first now volunteered to help. Some even joined Jace, Hal, and Marco during meal breaks, sharing stories and laughter. One afternoon, as Jace and Hal welded the framework for a central dome, they struck up a conversation with Alan, a Zaltraxian technician. His shimmering skin reflected the light of the welding torches. "This structure," Alan said, gesturing to the partially completed framework, "is unlike anything we've built before. It's more than just a habitat." "Yeah," Hal agreed, removing his gloves for a moment. "It's a statement. It shows that we can actually work together, not just talk about it." Jace nodded, tightening a bolt. "That's what it's all about. I mean, look at us right now. We're building something that no single species could have made on its own." Alan's gaze lingered on the dome. "If it succeeds, it will set a new precedent. Others will follow." "It will succeed," Jace said firmly, "because we're going to make sure it does." They worked long hours, but the sense of accomplishment grew with each passing day. The shared habitat slowly took shape, a gleaming dome surrounded by smaller modules, each connected by walkways that blended Zaltraxian fluidity with human practicality. Inside, spaces were designed for collaboration, relaxation, and learning. The garden in the central atrium began to sprout green and violet leaves, a living reminder of their combined efforts. As they completed the final touches, the council returned for an official unveiling. Jace, Hal, and Marco stood with Ilara and Alan at the entrance, watching as Zaltraxians and humans stepped inside for the first time. The reaction was immediate. Representatives from both sides marveled at the seamless integration of their technologies and designs. One of the Zaltraxian councillors approached Jace. This is remarkable. It is not only functional, but it also feels different, inviting, harmonious. Thank you, Jace replied, his voice steady. We wanted it to be more than just a building. We wanted it to be a place where anyone, Zaltraxian or human, can come and work together. Hal added, it's proof that we don't have to stay in our own little corners. We can combine our strengths. Ilara, standing nearby, spoke with quiet confidence. This project is just the beginning. From here, we can do so much more. The council members nodded in agreement. They discussed plans to expand the shared habitat, to build more facilities like it on other planets, and to deepen the partnership between their peoples. As the day wound down, the three men found themselves sitting in the central garden, looking up at the glowing dome they'd helped create. The air was filled with the soft hum of Zaltraxian lighting and the faint rustle of leaves. Marco glanced at the others. You know, we actually did it. We came here as three guys looking for a way to survive, and now I don't know, something more. Hal laughed. Yeah, and we didn't blow anything up in the process. Guess that's a win. Jace smiled, leaning back against a bench. It's not just a win. It's the start of something that's going to last. Something we can keep building on. The three of them sat in comfortable silence for a while, their gazes on the sky beyond the dome. Stars flickered in the distance, and for the first time they truly felt connected to the vast universe around them, not as individuals from Earth, but as part of something much larger. Eventually, Ilara joined them, her quiet presence a steadying force. She didn't say much, but her expression conveyed a deep sense of contentment. When Jace finally spoke, his words were soft. You were right, Ilara. This is just the beginning, and I can't wait to see what's next.